I want to thank you for your response. And this January, we're covering a series called Order Your Life. And the idea is that if you'll order your life, you'll get the life you've ordered. If you'll order your life in the right way, your life will turn out in a particular way. And last week, I covered the idea that you'll see in this passage from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. It says, in everything you do, put God first. That's what we focused on last week. First things first. Put God first in everything you do. And here's the promise. He will direct you and crown your efforts with success. And so that's what's key to seeing your life turn out the way that you want it to. It's to put God first in all things. Last week I talked to you about putting when into now and intentions into actions. And we challenged everyone to give the first part of their year and month and week and day in different ways to put God first. We'll revisit that. And so this is a series about priorities. And what I said last week is that 2018 can be your best year ever if it's your best year spiritually. And the reason why I say that is because we get confused in this life. We think that we think that we're physical beings who are having temporary spiritual experiences, like when we come to church. But the truth is, you're an eternal spiritual being. Your life is going to go on forever, and you're living a temporary physical life. And so it's important for you to get spiritual things right first. And so this is a series about that. The order is important. You know, I've got an illustration for you today, a visual. And you may have seen something like this before, but this jar represents your life. You know, it's your life, and these little bits that are in here, well, this is all the stuff that you want to do in your life. It's little non-essential things, but maybe stuff you enjoy. Some of you, like, half these bits are Facebook. That's like half your life that's going by. Or maybe it's like Netflix, like several hands full. I don't know. Some of you, this is hunting, it's shopping, it's golfing. It's the stuff you enjoy, right? And you've got all this stuff going on. You got cleaning in there. It's not as much fun as Netflix, but there's cleaning. And the thing is, you've got some big values, things you say are really important to you. So you say, well, God's important to me. You know, I want to make sure that I fit God into my life. And you say to me, hey, listen, my family, they're really important to me. That they matter so much to me. There's nothing that matters more. And then what you say, and you know what else? My health's important to me. And so I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna figure it out. And you say, you know, something else that's important to me is my finances. My finances are really important to me because well, I want to pay off debt. I want to be generous. That's the kind of life I want to lead. I want to be able to realize my dreams financially. And the thing is, this is how it's ending up for you. In fact, for most of us, this is how we live. We live frustrated. We live thinking that we're not going to be able to fit everything into our lives that we want to. And the truth is, it's not that there's not enough room in your life for these things, but the order is out of whack. Now, I want to suggest to you that the order is important. That's our big idea today. The order is important. And so what you need to do is you need to decide to put some things in there first. These big things that are important to you, put them in first. And so you're going to put God in first. You're going to make sure that you're coming to church. You're going to make sure that you're engaged in ministry, that like your spiritual life is at the center of your plans and not just something you'll do if you come up with the time for it. And you're going to you're going to make your family really important. So you're going to spend time on your marriage. You're going to notice your spouse when you come home, right? You're going to disrupt your plans for your kids because they're important. They're so important to you. And you're going to say, you know what else? My health's so important. I'm going to put exercise in there early in the day. I'm going to work it out. It's going to be a priority. I'm going to do it before I do other things that I enjoy. And then I'm also going to fix my money. So I'm going to give to God first. And I'm going to save. And I'm going to pay off debt. And I'm even going to be able to leave something behind to my children and grandchildren. And the thing is, if you'll put the right things in there first, the thing is, you'll end up with enough room for all this other stuff, all that Facebook, and Twitter and Instagram, all the things, the Netflix you love, and oh, you're golfing and spending some time out doing what you love to do. There's room for it. There's even room for you to clean your windows and take the screens off at the right time of the year. There's time for that because you put things in the right order. And the truth is, there's more than enough room for it. But you've missed that. Most of us aren't living this way. We're living frustrated, trying to fit it all in. And what I'm saying to you today is, today, I want to say to you, the order is important. That's the one thing that I want to focus on with you. If you place the exact same things inside the same size jar, but in a different order, you'll get different results because the order is important. All of us know this, but few of us live that way. And so I want to share with you 3 biblical principles about order. And the first is this: order determines capacity. Order determines capacity. When we put first things first, that changes what is possible. I learned very early in my marriage that I am a very pathetic spatial planner compared to my wife. So when it's time to go on a trip and we have a lot of things to fit in the car, I just bring everything out to the car and I wait for her. It sits there on the driveway and I am then just doing what she tells me to do. I'm packing it in that order. Jesus, he actually talked about this in the Sermon on the Mount. I touched on this verse last week. In Matthew chapter 6, this is how Jesus said it. He said, don't worry saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? Where am I going to go shopping? How am I going to spend time with my friends? How am I going to do the things that I need to enjoy life? I don't think God wants you to give those things up. He says the pagans run after all these things. They really don't think about anything except their own pleasures and their own wants. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things, all those other non-essential parts, they'll be added. They'll be given to you as well. So, it's possible that you can live in a way where everything will fit if you put God first. Your life won't be hanging over the edges. You won't be frustrated. I want to tell you something else about order. Order communicates priority. Order communicates priority. And the thing is, whatever you spend your time doing first, whatever you spend your money on first, it's communicating something to God and the people around you about what's really important, whether you know it or not. Order communicates what matters to you. Whatever's first and most important. Most of us, many of us, we have strong values. But your values aren't clear to the people around you because you're not making choices according to those values. Listen to how Jesus talked about it. This is in Revelation chapter 2, verses 2 and 4. It says, I know your deeds, your hard work, and your perseverance. These people they've done a lot of right things. They've not tolerated wicked people. They've gotten rid of false apostles. They've figured out what's true. They've persevered. They've endured hardships. They've not grown weary. All those things were great, but he says, I hold this against you. You've forsaken your first love. It's possible for you to get in place in working so hard in your life at things, and particularly working hard at things for God, and you lose a sense of love for him. And I'll tell you this, we're in 21 days right now of prayer and fasting, and it's not too late for you to jump into that and be a part of that. Why not start today? Finish the last 14 days with us. But it's possible that you could go into those 21 days of prayer and fasting, and if there's not love in your heart, you'll hate it. If there's not love in your heart for God, it will just be an empty, dry exercise. Make sure that you're fueling those choices with love, with sincere love, those choices to put things first. You've got all kinds of things to put in the jar. And what I'm saying to you is God's noticing what's first to you. People are noticing what's first. Sometimes people look at my teenage sons. My teenage sons are not perfect. They're teenagers. I was a teenager. Sometimes my little guy, he'll go, what's wrong with those people? Are they teenagers? No offense. But that's kind of it. But sometimes people look at my teenage sons and they'll say, man, what did you do to your kids to make them actually love God and love the church? Well, for one, we've got a great church here. You're wonderful people. But what I really think about is the fact that our kids knew from their earliest days what was profoundly important to us. Our kids knew that God was first in our lives. And so they worked with us in the things that we did for God. If we were setting up chairs, they helped us set up chairs. If we were cleaning up the kitchen at the church, they were cleaning up the kitchen at the church with us. If we were handing out flyers, they did that with us. I mean, that's the kind of way we raised them. You might think, well, wouldn't that cause them to become bitter? Because we never told them there was a choice about coming to church or about whether they'd go to their youth group or whatever it was. Wouldn't that make them bitter? No. It's communicated to them what's first in our lives, and it's made them want what should be first in their life. And I'm saying to you, what you put first, it communicates priority. Here's the third principle about order. Order impacts the rest. Order impacts the rest. So order, if we do it right, it not only increases our capacity and communicates priority, but it also has power in it. Because whatever does happen first has a kind of supernatural power to positively affect the rest. You know, I don't exactly know how it works because I'm not an engineer, but I'm certain this kind of principle is present in engineering for those of you who studied that. And here's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying that whatever you put in first in your life, the organizational principle is that governs the rest. It actually impacts everything else. Look at how Proverbs says it. Proverbs 3, in all your ways acknowledge him, honor the Lord. And this is talking about wealth, but really it refers to many other things. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. In other words, God doesn't just want you to be generous. He wants you to give to him first. He wants you to honor him first. Then, after you honor him first, your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. That's the idea here. Put God first, and it impacts the rest. It makes more room for the rest. So I want to ask you to go with me and just apply this to 3 areas in life. One big rock for us all that we need to fit in is time. Time. In fact, we looked at Psalm 90:12 last week. And Psalm 90:12 says, "Teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." So we want to figure out how to arrange our lives in a way that will be wise and benefit us in the long run. In fact, we could all agree today that we're too busy, or like there's too much going on in our lives. Most of us would say that. It's just go, go, go. And so how do you slow it down? How do you slow down your life? Well, right now, during the 21 days of fasting, many of you, you're skipping screens. You're not watching TV. You're not looking at the internet. You've just like signed out of that for the duration of this fast. And what you're finding is there's so much more time. You didn't know there was so much time. You get to 9:30 at night and you're like, is it time to go to bed yet? This is like, I've accomplished far more than I'm used to accomplishing. A number of people have said this to me already. And that's because they put other things first. A lot of us are realizing during this fast that our lives are full of clutter. We eat so much stuff that we don't need. But it goes beyond eating. We put things in our lives that we don't need. Many people say, I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to read the Bible. And I want to suggest to you, you don't have time for it because it's not first. It actually, you will find that your time is maximized. You somehow have more time when you put the right things first. Another big rock for us all, another thing that we want to make sure that we put in there right is family. And most of us agree that our family, our marriages, our kids are very important. We'd all say that. In fact, if you don't say that, that's like should be against the law or something. My family's not important to me. Of course you wouldn't say that. Well, your family's important to you, but the problem is that many times there's a disconnect between what we say is important and what we put first. What we say is important and what we actually put first. Remember, what you put first communicates priority. And if we were to ask our spouses or our kids to tell us what's most important to us, that takes some bravery. You might learn something. Many of us would never admit that we live between the truth that we know and the truth that we live, but it's true for many of us, and I want you to know this. The distance between the truth you know and the truth you live equals the pain you experience. Too many of us, we tell ourselves about what's important to us, and then we do the exact opposite, and every time it results in disappointment. For many families, there's a lot of pain simply because things are out of order. Relationships are strained because you're stressed out, you're too stretched. Maybe it's not actually that there's too much going on. Maybe it's that things are out of order. And the formula for having a strong family is that together you put God first. It impacts the rest. Having a vision for life together as a family. One practical way that you can put God first as a family is to determine ahead of time now that you're going to put God first every week by worshiping with the church. Wasn't that wonderful today as we were worshiping? Why would you ever put that aside because it's raining or because somebody says they don't feel like going? Why would you ever put that aside? There's no reason, no good reason why you'd put it aside. And so I'm saying to you, decide that on the first day of the week, you're always going to be here. You're always going to be worshiping together. It's going to remain a priority because this is critical in setting the vision and rhythm for your life. If God is first, give him the first day to worship. it communicates to your family your priority. And instead of training our kids to be church dropouts when they grow up, we're leaving them a legacy about what we put first. It will increase the likelihood, if you'll do it, it'll increase the likelihood that your children will do the same when they're adults, because they're learning from you right now about what is most important. Another practical thing about what comes first, it's great, expressed very well in this video from Dr. James Dobson, Focus on the Family. Let's check it out.
Dr. James Dobson for Family Talk.
There was a book that was published many years ago based on a very simple little principle that I never forgot. Its thesis was that the first 5 minutes occurring between people sets the tone for everything that's to follow. For example, a public speaker is given very few moments to convince his audience that he really does have something worthwhile to say. If he's boring or stilted in the beginning, his listeners will turn him off like a light bulb, and he'll never know why. And if he hopes to use humor during his speech, he'd better say something funny very quickly, or his audience won't believe he can make them laugh. The opportunity of the moment is just lost. Closer to home, the first 5 minutes of the morning determines how a mother will interact with her children on that day. A snarl or a complaint as the kids gather for breakfast will sour their relationship for hours. And at the end of the day, when a man arrives home from work, the way he greets his wife, or doesn't greet his wife, will influence their interaction throughout the evening. A single criticism, such as, "Not tuna casserole again," will put their relationship on edge from there to bedtime. Fortunately, whenever we've been apart from those we love, we have a new opportunity to kind of reset the mood. A little sensitivity when coming back together can produce surprising benefits. It all depends on the first 5 minutes.
Dr. James Dobson for Family Talk.
So if you want your family to be strong, you want God's blessing on your house, your marriage, your relationships, put God first in your family. Before sports or television, before friends, before work. The order is important. And for a lot of families, the trouble is not in the issues that you think you have. It's the order of things in your life. The next big rock, the last thing I want to talk to you about, it's money. Money's a big rock because it's the number one test of your priorities. It's the number one test of your priorities. There's a direct connection between your heart and your money. Jesus said it. Maybe you've seen this verse before. Matthew 6:21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. What you do with your money shows what's important to you. If you really want to know someone's priorities, look at how they spend their money. And God's idea to help us to put Him first in our lives is what the Bible calls tithing. Tithe means a tenth. It's giving God the first 10% of your income. And it's not just that the Bible refers to this as a tithe, but it also refers to this kind of giving as first fruits. In other words, it's something you decide to do before everything else. Now, this is not about a church fundraising program. This wasn't put in the Bible so that religion could stay afloat. No, God was trying to teach us something specific that's related to what we're talking about today. Look at Deuteronomy 14:23. The purpose of tithing is to teach you always to put God first in your lives. Because you know what? It doesn't come natural to us to put God first in our lives. I heard a pastor a long time ago say that tithing is a kind of insurance against backsliding. I don't know how true it is, but the idea is, if you're tithing and you're continuing to put God first in your life, you're going to be less likely to drift away from God. It's meant to train us. Tithing is meant to train us. And if you want God to be first, He has to be first in your finances. I know quite a number of you've recently made a commitment to Christ. And you're growing in your faith. I'm so glad for you. And one of the smartest things that you can do right now as you begin to grow in your faith is that you start putting God first in your finances through tithing. And remember, it's a tenth. When the offering comes around, some people, they might give $10 or $20, and that's great if your income is $100 or $200. But if you're making $2,000, you just need to move the decimal point. It's really that simple. In a couple of weeks, you'll get a W-2, and it'll tell you what your income was last year. And you'll also, about the same time, get a letter from us telling you what you gave to your church. And if that's a tenth of what's on your W-2, guess what? You're a tither. And why is it so important? Because the result of God putting God first is that it impacts or blesses the rest, right? It communicates to God and to others who know about your financial situation His priority. It increases your capacity when you put God first in this way. There's so many people right here in this room today. There's dozens of you here. You could tell us about how putting God first through tithing, giving God the first 10% has positively impacted your life in countless ways. You could tell us all that story. But I want you to watch this testimony. It comes to us from David Green, the founder of Hobby Lobby. Some other people in the video. Check it out.
In my junior and senior year in high school, I took a course called Distributive Education. Because of that, I was able to get out of school by about 11:30 and go down to the local 5 and dime store and work during my junior and senior years. And I found myself loving the work and loving retail, and I took to it. I said, this is something I think I could do. I don't know that my mother and father, being ministers, really understood that we all have a calling on our lives. And as a result of that, after I got into retail, I really felt like I was a second-class citizen and a second-class Christian. And it took me some time to learn that, God had a purpose for my life as well as any of my brothers and sisters, which all 5 went into the traditional pastor, pastor's wife, evangelist. During a time when I was actually a store manager at a variety chain, I decided to start manufacturing something just to go in business for myself. And so we started manufacturing really small miniature frames in our garage. And that's how we got started in business for ourselves. And from that manufacturing, we used the profits to open up our first store, 300 square feet, which is about the size of a living room. And then after that, we made enough profit to take it to 1,000 square feet, which was a big move, we thought at the time. But over the years, God has blessed us, and we have continued to add stores. And we're at the point this year where our sales are going to be $2.5 billion. And God has blessed us to be a very profitable company. Every day there's decisions around here that has to do with, is this what Christ would have us to do? And so we try to ask those questions. There's many times that God tests us in terms of dollars and cents. Like when He was dealing with us on opening on Sunday, we said, this is what God would have us to do. At that time we were doing $100 million on Sunday. Not that we've always made the right decisions, but hopefully that we are very sensitive to finding out what Christ would have us to do in our business.
We don't set our Christianity on the shelf when we come to work. It is a part of our work. I think it should have an influence on every decision because as a Christian, that means that we are following Christ. That means that every decision that we make should be guided and directed by Christ that lives within us.
It's a unique company to work for with such core Christian principles that dictate so much of what we do here, that really kind of says it's not just about words, it's not just here's what we say, it's let us show you how we live.
The employees really feel the love that the Green family has for them. They support a lot of ministries that invest in their lives. We're just grateful to be able to see not only the lives that it's touching here, but they take this information home and it's making a big impact in their family as well.
I feel like the Lord has put these 20,000 employees in our charge, and He spoke to me about that at one time, and I thought at the time it meant only their spiritual, and as a result of that, we've hired 3 chaplains. But when I gave it more thought, I think He also meant in terms of their financial needs, and so we felt like that we needed to do all we could do, step up above what's required of us. What is required of us is $7.25 an hour minimum wage. But the last couple of years, we have raised the minimum wage to our full-time employees now is at $12. And in addition to that, we try to give them reasonable hours. That's why we're only open 66 hours a week. And because we have taken care of our employees, they have taken care of us. It has been a good relationship.
I walked into one of our break rooms recently. One of the housekeepers was standing there. So I called her by name. I said, "How are you this morning?" She said, "I'm just wonderful." She said, "I clean restrooms and I clean floors to help David Green get the gospel spread worldwide." It doesn't matter who fills what position out here. There's that heart to please God in everything that is said and done. And that attitude comes from the Green family.
This business has been blessed by God. He has given the family the skills and the ability, the opportunity, the time, the ideas. All of these have come in one way or the other from God. And so for us to lay claim to any of that would be wrong on our part. That helps us have the right perspective and understanding and not feel like that it's ours to do whatever we want to with.
So we legally have a document that says if this company is sold, 90% of it would have to go to various ministries, and the other 10 would go towards maybe the health, maybe education, things of that nature for our great-great-grandchildren. We do not own this company, but we're the stewards. God has given us the responsibility to be good stewards, and that we want to do.
You know, when you see that, you recognize that what we read in Proverbs is true at the start of this message. When you put God first, He'll crown you with success. And this takes faith to believe, but it works. It's worked in my life. It's worked in Hobby Lobby. It's worked in this church's life. Unexplainable favor when you put God first. And so what I'm asking you to do during this series, I'm asking you to take on a challenge for yourself. The Order Your Life Challenge. It's there in your bulletin. There's an insert. It says Order Your Life Challenge. I'm inviting you for the next 90 days to order your life in this way and see if God doesn't bless you. The first is that you're going to give God the first part of your year by participating in 21 days of prayer and fasting. Just jump in right now. Give God the first part of your year to speak to you, to set aside for Him, to grow closer to Him than you normally do. There's information in our lobby about how you can fast, how you can be engaged in that prayer for 21 days. Give God the first part of your day by reading God's Word and praying. So that's about giving Him first of your time. Third, give God the first day of the week. This year, determine it right now that you're going to give Him the first part of the week by attending church and life groups each week faithfully. You're going to stick with it. It's going to be first no matter what. And finally, you're going to give God the first of your monthly income by giving 10%. This is about putting God first. This is about experiencing the life that you've wanted, but you've got to order your life first.